Thank you, Mr. Mundell. It is a pleasure to serve under your chairship, and I would like to thank my honourable friend, the member for North Ayrshire and Arran, for introducing this important debate. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, "Whoever is kind to the creatures of God, he is kind to himself." Caring for animals is not just an ethical issue in Islam, it is an act of worship to God. Mahatma Gandhi said, "The greatness of a nation and its moral progress can be judged by the way its animals are treated." The way we treat farmed animals in this country is not only our responsibility, but a reflection of our values and what we stand for in this country. Unfortunately, right now, the reflection I see is distorted, because despite all the proud talk about Britain's leadership on animal welfare, millions of animals are still confined in cages and crates that violate the most basic standards of dignity and care. So I rise today in support of this petition, not just because of what it asks, to ban cages for laying hens, farrowing crates for sows, and individual pens for calves, but because of what it represents. A call for us to honour our moral duty to animals who feed us, often clothe us, and we see ourselves as their caretakers. It's a call echoed by my constituents of Dewsbury and Batley, who are deeply disturbed that despite UK legislation which protects animals, practices like farrowing crates in rich cages and calf pens remain legal in the UK. Legal, but increasingly indefensible. Just because something is legal does not always mean it is right. Many highlight that after watching documentaries or seeing images, they are horrified by how our food industry treats animals throughout their lifetime, simply to make it easier to farm their produce. An example lies within the recent footage from a Devon pig farm exposed by campaigners and reported by The Guardian. In that footage, sows are shown trapped in crates so tight they cannot turn around, care properly for their piglets, or even lie down in comfort. In this practice, the pig is reduced to a machine, treated as an object for the benefit of the food industry. This is a moral failing. Let's be clear, the farrowing crate is not an unfortunate glitch in a mostly humane system. It is the system itself, and it's built on a trade-off we no longer need to accept. We prioritise production over compassion, but the public support is strong, and nearly 75% of vets are concerned about the welfare impact of farrowing crates. So what are we waiting for? I will give way.
Thank you for giving way. Would you agree, though, that it is very encouraging that the industry is already making great strides to move away from the traditional crating system to new flexible systems? And as I say, we've already seen 8% now of those systems change in the last couple of years.
I thank my honourable friend for his intervention. I completely agree. And I do not stand here to oppose farmers and the critical work that they do and the food that they provide our country. What I hope the government will push now is to speed up that transition and support farmers who already implemented the 8% and support the other 92% to make that transition. So it's not just pigs, but birds and calves, as highlighted in this petition. One of the most shocking facts I came across while researching this topic is that hens are confined to cages that give them little more space than the size of an A4 sheet of paper. Can you imagine? The RSPCA calls these cages unacceptably restrictive, and companies like Waitrose, Sainsbury's and McDonald's have committed to change. If private businesses can do it, why hasn't the government? Other countries are in fact ahead of us. Even in Scotland, consultation has been launched on cages and farming practice. We too must follow. This is not just about discomfort, it's about denying animals the chance to express their natural behaviours, to peck, stretch, dust, bathe or nest. It's about mothers unable to care for their young, calves kept alone, unable to bond or play. These are not just welfare issues, they're dignity issues. They're about whether we accept a food system built on the routine suppression of life's most basic instincts, even if it is an animal's life. I will give way.
I thank him for giving way. I was just interested in his reflections, really. I think everything he says is absolutely valid, but if I'm a farmer and I have 200 acres of land and therefore I'm having to use some of the practices he describes, and acreage is £10,000 an acre, practically for that farmer, it's very difficult to suddenly end all of those practices by effectively acquiring 50, 100 extra acres to provide the space that's required. So I'm just interested in his reflections on how, from the farmer's perspective and from a commercial perspective, all of those objectives can be achieved.
I thank my honourable friend for his intervention, and it is a very difficult challenge. But as has been mentioned by speakers before me, the standards of food produced elsewhere from the UK and is allowed to be imported needs to meet the standards that we follow in the UK. Cost cannot be a reason to compromise on the welfare of animals. So I'm really keen to hear from the Minister on how he will help, or the government will help farmers. I will give way.
Yeah, I wonder if the member might also reflect upon our competitors, our farming competitors, particularly countries like Norway, Sweden, Switzerland to some extent, Germany, Austria, New Zealand, who have banned such practices in their pig industries, and the extent to which that means there can be a viable business model under a reformed system.
I thank my honourable friend for giving way. I think we should look elsewhere for good practice and how other countries have transitioned away from these practices. So I'm not here having a go at farmers at all, but I hope the government will expedite its manifesto commitment to look at animal welfare and help farmers transition to a more humane system. So farm animals don't just feed us, they live their entire lives under farmers' care, our care. And I'm sure that we can all agree that care must mean more than simply the absence of cruelty. And even that we do not have. We cannot argue it is a radical or a long process, because alternatives are propping up and farms are taking initiative to move away without waiting for legislation. While it is embarrassing that we are not leading the way, we can catch up and set a new standard for all, a standard which will be met with little pushback, as long as we have the appropriate government support for our farmers. This debate must be the beginning of addressing intensive farming practices that strip animals of dignity in service of profit and drawing a line between industry and responsibility. If we want to be a country that preaches welfare, let's prove it. Ban the cages and give animals a life that reflects the respect they deserve, not just as a means to an end, but as living beings entrusted to our care. This is not radical, this is not responsible, this is compassion, and this is necessary. Thank you.
Joe Morris.